In Lioness Season 2, Josephina had asked Cruz to join the team and monitor Josephina's behavior because Joe was having a terrible time trusting her. Cruz had stated in the last episode that she didn't want to work for Joe, but once more, she was at a loss for what to do. Cruz examined the circumstances and concluded that sending Josephina on the mission was unsafe since she would ultimately face difficulties that were difficult to handle. To find out if Josephina was ultimately persuaded to defy her own family, let's review the main points of Season 2 Episode 5. Joe and the DEA had no idea that females would be found in that facility. It was assumed that the cartel was smuggling narcotics, and when the squad attacked the facility, they would confiscate the whole shipment. Joe had placed a tracker on one of the girls who was being trafficked, as we had seen in the previous episode of Lioness Season 2. Joe knew that she was going against the original plan by doing this, but she couldn't let her conscience stop her. She snapped at Gutierrez when Joe's crew returned to the base, accusing him and his group of being aware that the cartel was engaged in human trafficking. Fortunately, the location lacked CCTV cameras, so no one witnessed Joe and his group killing cartel members. Westfield and Kaitlyn were aware that if the cartel discovered that the mission was a CIA operation, it would be unsuccessful upon arrival. Fortunately, however, the cartel thought their opponents were the ones who had plotted an assault on their stronghold. Joe found it difficult to deal with, but Kaitlyn and Westfield wanted to keep it that way. Joe was troubled by the idea that she had to leave those girls behind, who were in dire need of assistance. She was aware that her sole responsibility was to force the Lioness to enter the inner ring of the cartel, after which she would just sit back and wait for her to provide the knowledge. However, Joe was unable to accomplish that. She made the decision to locate the trafficked girl and learn the true nature of the cartel's activities. Josephina simply wasn't prepared to go see her father after whatever had transpired in that warehouse in the previous Lioness Season 2 episode. Joe requested Cruz to pursue him and make her understand the seriousness of the situation when she abruptly left the meeting. Cruz was aware that persuading a daughter to set up a trap for her own father and her uncle would be a very challenging task. Josephina believed that Cruz's attempts to explain to her that her father was a bad guy would not have much of an impact on her. Cruz understood that sending an asset to carry out a task when everyone was aware of the asset's reluctance was illogical. Cruz then devised a different strategy. She went to Joe and informed her that she could be inspired to pursue the task if they gave Josephina hope that her father could escape the problem. Cruz advised Josephina to attempt to turn Joe against her uncle by telling him everything. As a businessman, Josephina's father aspired to make a lot of money and live a fancy life. He had no objectives and no ideology to guide his behavior, which was the main distinction between him and the types of individuals Joe and her crew encountered in the Middle East. The fact that they were actually altering the entire plan at the last minute annoyed Joe. She was aware, however, that Cruz's plan was logical and that they could have a greater chance of contacting Alvaro. Joe then proceeded to speak with Josephina and assured him that she would ensure her father had state protection and that the whole family was moved to upstate New York or any other location where the CIA could provide them with safety if he agreed to join. Joe informed Josephina that she was not taking her parents on a holiday after she said that their parents wouldn't settle in a chilly area. Josephina was informed by Joe that it was the most she could hope for and that she should try her hardest to help the father realize how delicate the situation was. In the 5th episode of Season 2 of Lioness, Josephina finally meets her father. Her dad had a perverse view of how democracy, or any kind of governance, for that matter, works. Cruz and Josephina both grasped his meaning despite his heavy use of metaphors. Josephina didn't explain her intentions to him or why she was there. You would think that Josephina would rethink her mind after hearing what her father had to say. She will soon realize, in my opinion, that Cruz was quite correct in what he informed her earlier. She might be able to recognize her father for who he truly is and stop letting her feelings control her. To find out where the traffickers were transporting those young girls, Joe split the squad into 2 groups. One group accompanied Josephina, while the other group accompanied Joe. Jo knew that she wouldn't have a green light from them to proceed with her plan, so she hadn't told Kaitlyn Westfield that she was going to pursue the traffickers. Jo was a pretty sensible person in general, and she had learned over the years to follow her reason rather than her intuition. However, things were different this time. She simply couldn't handle the shame of having to leave all those girls behind. Jo made the mistake of pursuing the girls because she believed it was her responsibility to save them. I say, blunder, because of what transpired at the conclusion of the Lioness Season 2 episode, not because she violated the line of command. After Jo and his group had located the traffickers, one of them eventually stepped forward and detonated himself, most likely killing everyone in his vicinity. Jo lived, and it was clear from her expression that she did not anticipate a suicide bombing. Jo's supervisor's reactions to learning about the attack will be revealed in the upcoming episodes, but one thing is certain, they won't be pleased. I hope you enjoyed these theories. I'll post more soon. Thanks for viewing. Watch out for the next shocking surprise.